everybody. Sorry about that. A few technical difficulties, but hopefully everything's looking a little more stable now. So hopefully that's behind us. As I mentioned with the first video or the first attempt at the video, this is our new Kings of the North segment that'll take a look at the NFC North standings. Just to recap what we were covering there with the first attempt at the stream. Obviously, the Packers and the Bears played each other last week on Thursday night. The Packers getting the win there, so they are in first place in the NFC North. The Vikings did pick up a win also against Atlanta, so they are in second place. The Lions, of course, tied the Cardinals, so they're sitting in third. And then the Bears, with that loss to the Packers, are the last place team currently in the NFC North. And Joe, of course, it is unfortunate for us because we both chose the Bears to win the NFC North. A lot of season left to go, but they're going to be starting out here in the bottom. My dad, of course, pointing out that he chose the Packers, so I guess he's sitting pretty. And if we take a look, Joe, we were sort of talking about it just to set the stage for what's going to happen here in week 2. The Packers have a chance here to start out their 2019 campaign against their NFC North opponents with a bang because they're playing the Vikings at home this Sunday, so they have a chance to potentially go not only 2-0 to start the season, but start out 2-0 in the NFC North. Of course, the Vikings definitely look pretty sharp against Atlanta, so it's not going to be easy for them. Of course, our Detroit Lions are going to be taking on the Los Angeles Chargers at home. And then the Bears are going to be visiting Denver, who did not look all that great against Oakland on Monday night. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But obviously, Joe, we have a very small sample size. It's only been 1 week. But looking at these 4 NFC North teams, we've talked about it being a very tough division. What have you liked, or what have you seen out of these 4 teams so far to start this young season?
For Green Bay, good defense. The ability to score fast. That's Green Bay's analysis after week 1. For Chicago, trouble on offense. Still played good defense, containing Aaron Rodgers, and really only gave up 1 touchdown drive. So they have a lot of room to improve on offense. Their defense still looks like it can handle a good offense or a good opponent. For Minnesota, they looked good, both on offense and on defense. A little bit surprised I didn't see them getting Kyle Rudolph more involved. But their defense looked explosive. They got into the backfield, and they really started the game strong against Atlanta. So, these defenses right here that we look at in the NFC North right off the get-go all look very strong. Green Bay, Chicago, and Minnesota. Detroit's defense, not so effective as the other 3. But I was happy to see Detroit's offense be very effective, at least for the first 3 quarters. Look for them to try to get more consistency with that as the season goes on. But, definitely at the end of the week, there's going to be a team 2-0, most likely in the division. And it's either going to be Green Bay or Minnesota. And, then you got a winnable game for Chicago, and you got a tough matchup for Detroit. So, it's looking favorable, most likely for Minnesota to be king of the North, and they have the tie right now with Green Bay.
Yeah, certainly there's still much of the season left to go. So, as we continue to do this segment sort of throughout the NFL season, obviously there'll be certainly some changes to the standings, and hopefully these teams will get some separation. With 1 game sample size, there's not a whole lot separating them at the moment. So, but we talked about the importance for the Lions to get off to a strong start this season. That can obviously that can apply to any team really. And so if you're looking at the NFC North, obviously the 2 teams that got victories in the first week are the Vikings and the Packers. So both teams have an opportunity this week to get off to a pretty strong start. The Packers a slightly stronger one, just because that would give them 2 wins on 2 NFC North rivals. The Vikings, they'd still be 2-0, but only one of those coming against their division opponents there. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we'll talk about our picks for that later on this week when we do the Pick'em episode. So we won't give too much away now, Joe, but definitely a opportunity for the Packers and the Vikings. The Packers, of course, the game is being played at Lambeau, so possibly an advantage for them, but we'll have to see if that influences our picks later on this week. So if you're interested to see who we're taking in that game, make sure you tune in for the Pick'em episode, which will be later on this week. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Obviously, both the Bears and the Packers kind of started out sluggish on offense. 10 and 3 points, not a whole lot there. The Vikings were able to score 28 points, but as you mentioned, Joe, a lot of that was based off of their defensive play. And I think Kirk Cousins only ended up with 100-something passing yards, so it's kind of interesting that in a 4-touchdown game, he only threw the ball for 100 or so yards, but more might be required here this week against the Packers. But I think it's going to be important for the Lions here to respond in week 2 as well. Like I said, the Broncos didn't look that great, so the Bears have an opportunity to get a win. The Chargers are a good team. They are missing some parts, but they did show that they're still a pretty potent offense there, even without Melvin Gordon. So, it's going to be an important game for the Lions, because if they drop essentially they should have had a win against the Cardinals. It doesn't count as a loss, but it also doesn't count as a win. So if they have to go until week 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 to get a win, it's going to really start to snowball downhill for them. So I'm sure we'll be talking about it more with some of the later episodes. But so far here, taking a look at who has the inside track as the King of the North, I think the Packers are sitting pretty in first place. The Vikings right there nipping on their heels. And, of course, the Lions and the Bears falling in line behind. But the good news is there's another week of football coming up just around the corner. So both teams will have a chance to come in here and have something to say about that. So, unfortunately for this first edition of the Kings of the North, it's not going to be a super long video, a little bit something shorter, which might be nice because I know, Joe, we tend to deep dive into some topics, so our videos tend to get a little longer. So we'll throw a little spice of variety at the people and keep this one pretty short. And like I said, we'll be doing a pick'em segment later on this week. Let me actually check the date so that if you do want to tune in, I can have that for you. And while that's loading and I'm checking on that, just a reminder, if you did enjoy the show, please do help the channel grow. Hitting like on our videos and also subscribing helps us out tremendously. I also want to do a shout out to the Lions Grid subreddit. I've been posting some of our recent videos there, and it's really helped us generate some views. So if you have discovered the channel via the Lions subreddit, just want to thank you for taking the time to come over and see what we're doing here. And your support is greatly appreciated. So we'll be doing the Pick'em segment on Saturday. So if you want to see who we're taking in some of the games, as I mentioned, the Vikings will be visiting the Packers, the Lions will be hosting the Chargers, and the Bears will be heading out to Mile High to take on the Broncos. If you want to see who we're taking in those games, make sure you tune in on Saturday when we lay down our picks. Like I said, relatively short episode. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we will see you, if you're interested, tomorrow night. We'll be taking a look at some of the NFL power rankings that came out and see where everyone's lining up. So we'll catch you tomorrow night for that power rankings video. Otherwise, have a good one, and thanks again for your support.